Well, I think if we're about ready, we might as well go ahead and get started. Let me make sure my sound is good. I think we're all ready. Liam has his nice little fancy glasses on. I'm sure I'm going to need my glasses at the end of the night, or by the time the night is over, at least. We'll find them. They're somewhere. That's okay. I'm sure we're all election. I'm sure we're all electioned out at this point, but bear with us. Where are my damn glasses? Anyway, I know we're all tired, and we all wanna pretend like this election's over, but unfortunately, it is not. So yeah, we will kind of bring you up to speed with what has been happening, with what's been going on with it in the meantime. So yeah, y'all stay with us. First and foremost, as you all see on the screen, one of my favorite big-headed, handsome young men of all time. Should give a shout out to Liam. What's going on, Liam?
How's it going, y'all?
So Liam will be filling in for Rebel, who couldn't make it today. Unfortunately, just got that text, but he did tell me to tell you, Liam, that he quote misses your happy ass. So whatever that means, maybe you know better than I do, but that's what he told me at the very least. So all that being said, what's going on around the country? What's going on with these elections? Well, when we did our little live stream yesterday, Liam was doing his own live stream on the Instagrams for all you people who like the Instagram. And I I really like Liam. I think he's a really smart guy, and I wanted to get his perspective on what's been happening. And I guess we can pick up on where we left off and take it from there. So, Liam, what's been going on from your perspective about this election, and what are you looking at right now?
Yeah, so actually last night, me and my two friends kind of called what was going to happen because we were looking at New York Times put out a list of every state and how they're going to count the ballots, like if they'll do the mail-in ballots first, or if they legally have to do the same-day ballots first. And we kept saying, Michigan, Wisconsin, they're going to look bad all night because they have to count the same-day ballots first. Those mail-in ballots are going to be predominantly Democrat, and clearly that's what happened. Michigan and Wisconsin were called both for Biden earlier today. And then I don't know. I think we were all a little disappointed. We were hoping Florida would go to Biden, and then it would be a very night. But clearly that hasn't happened, or clearly that didn't happen. And now I think Arizona has been called by the AP for Biden, but the New York Times is being hesitant to call it. And New Mexico, or no, not New Mexico. New Mexico was called right away. Nevada, Nevada is not releasing vote after sometime earlier today. I think they're afraid Trump trying to victory and things. They just want to completely done, or I'm not sure what they're doing. But Nevada, I feel pretty safe or I feel pretty confident that it's going to go to Biden. And then we're just waiting on Pennsylvania, Georgia, North Carolina. Um, Biden doesn't need any of those to win because he already would have the 270 even if Trump wins all three of those. So that's kind of where we're at with the presidential race. And then we've obviously got the Senate races up right now. And it's not looking great for Democrats in the Senate, but it also is not over. So Sarah Gideon, unfortunately, or if you're a Democrat, unfortunately lost in Maine earlier today, which I think that was a little bit of a shock that Susan Collins won pretty handily. And
Right.
A lot of the other long shots, Jamie Harrison lost, Bullock lost in Montana. What else was called? MJ Hager lost in Texas, and like they've all conceded. And now we're just waiting on. There's 2 seats up in Georgia. One's a special election, and they've announced the 2 that will go on. It was what is it called? A jungle primary, when they just have a bunch of people run and the top 2 go on. So they've announced that will go on, which Raphael Warnock is the Democrat. He had 32.4% of the vote, and Kelly Loeffler has 26.2% of the vote. so she'll go on as the Republican. And total for the Democrats, it was 47.9. Total for Republicans, oh, that was the total for Democrats. Total for Republicans, 49.9, which leaves 2.2 was either Libertarian, Green Party, or Independent. So that race will definitely be in play. I'm afraid that there might be a Republican turnout because of angry voters that they lost the presidential election. You never really, it's possible with Trump not on the ticket, a lot of people will stay home.
Right.
So that's really up in the air, especially Kelly Loeffler, the Republican. She basically insider traded about COVID. Like she knew how bad COVID was going to be, or at least had an idea of it, and reassured people that it was not going to be bad, and then like moved her money into in the stock market so that it would go up with like Zoom and some things that would benefit from COVID and out of things that would have lost from COVID.
And Purdue did the same thing, correct?
Yeah, I believe Purdue did the same thing. Yeah, but his race is also not over. He's going with Ossoff right now.
Right.
Currently, or last I checked, it was at 94% reporting, and Purdue was up by a little over 3%, which means that with that last 7% of the vote that needs to be counted, or 7 or so percent, or I think it was 6 to 7%. It's somewhere between 93 and 94. Ossoff will need to get about 70% of that vote to win, which is not impossible. Depends on what counties it is. I don't really know the counties of Georgia well enough to say if it's going to favor him very heavily, but it's still on the table for sure. It's just probably more likely to go to Purdue. And we have another Jabari joining us.
Yeah, that'll be for the screen share stuff because we like to do all the technologies over here. We do a whole bunch of stuff. My desk is ridiculous right now, so we'll see.
So I think, how I had that.
Oh my God, you did not just do the Karl Rove whiteboard. That's okay. I kind of like it though. I'm into it a little bit.
So I think so the difference right now was at 3.1% last I checked, and I believe there is 360,000. There are 360,000 votes left to be counted, and to win. So Purdue would need 30% of that to win. I think it's like 29.5 is technically the cutoff, but I'd say 30%. And Ossoff will need 70% of those remaining 6% of votes. So we got that still on the table for sure. Definitely, I wouldn't get your hopes too high up. And then we also have North Carolina, which Biden could still win, and Cal Cunningham could still win, but both of those are very unlikely, I would say. This race is at 93% reporting. Tom Tillis has 48.7% of the vote that's been counted. Cal Cunningham has 46.9%. So that would be, okay. So this 1.2% is the difference here. And then of that remaining 7% of the vote, Tom Tillis, so that in North Carolina, that's about 408,000 votes remaining to be counted.
Right.
Tillis will need a little over 38%, so call it like 38.2% of that to win. And Cal Cunningham would need about 60, I guess the opposite of this, so 61.8%, or probably 0.9% to win. So that would be for a Tillis victory.
Yeah, that race was interesting because what was the margin? What was the margin on North Carolina's presidential race with Trump and Biden? Because as we followed that for the majority of the night last night, we saw that the margin for Biden and slowly toward Trump was slightly different, but statistically significantly different, if that makes sense, to what the margin was between Tillis and Cunningham. And maybe that was evidence of ticket splitting among Republicans who maybe want to move on and want life without Trump the way most of us most desperately want life without Trump. So
Yeah, what's actually interesting is I was seeing the same trend last night where it seemed like Biden was outperforming Cunningham, but I
right.
just checked right now,
Hmm.
and they're at 94%, so a similar amount, and Biden is actually down by 1.4%. So Biden is minus 1.4, which means that Cal Cunningham is outperforming him by 0.2%, which
Wow.
is significant. That means that he must have done well in just some certain belt of some county in North Carolina that was counted today. And that might make the difference because North Carolina has not been called for Biden, and it's considered to be the one that's going to end up being.
Yeah.
So that's actually really good news to me. If Cal Cunningham is up 0.2 on Biden, then the ticket splitting is going the other way a little bit, which
Fair
is
enough.
what going. Cal Cunningham was actually up by I think about percent or something right before his affair surfaced, and then even
To the
after
people,
that, he was
the people at home may or may not know about that. I think it's hysterical, but I mean, you tell it. You tell a story about what happened.
uh, well, Cal Cunningham. So he was in the military, and um, then he was also a lawyer for the military. I don't know too much about his background, but then returned home. Apparently, he had an affair with the wife of another member of the military, and it was
Hmm.
actually someone who was disabled during service. So it was a disabled veteran's wife, um, and I mean that part's not the funny part that he had that affair, but how they proved that it happened was they shared the text that he sent, and he said that you are historically sexy. I cannot stop thinking about kissing you. So
That's
not only
such
was
a weird turn of phrase, but yeah.
was a kind of I don't know. It seems like a very cringy text to me. and,
That's very weird.
and that Republicans put out. My cousin actually saw it on before a YouTube video. Uh, while a veteran was over serving, or while veterans were over protecting your life, Cal Cunningham was an expletive in the Jared form.
Oh my god.
I don't know what is your policy on
Fucking. Fucking. There you go. The people are grown up. They ought to be able to hear the word fucking.
all right.
Correct.
I just had to check on your. I didn't know how you usually run this, uh,
But yeah.
but yeah. So I guess that stuck because he definitely dropped in the polls after that came out, and then they asked him, "Are there any other affairs that we should worry about?" And he would not say a definitive no. So to me, that I don't know. In
That's
other words, anyway, a ton of money poured into to North Carolina against him, and I've just been seeing ads. I live in North Carolina, so I've been seeing ads for the last month that are all about his affair, nothing about policy. Um, and
that's the way
unfortunately, I think
that
he
thing
probably,
tends to go, I guess.
yeah. I mean, that basically shows that they knew they couldn't win on the policy, but I don't know. He could still pull it out. Um, sorry, pardon the phrasing there. But
Wow.
this race
Wow.
is still winnable. Um, but again, that means there are three that I would say are still up in the air. Technically, Alaska has not been called, but I don't really see that as a reasonable possibility. Oh,
Right.
also, Michigan race has not been called yet. They have a Senate race going, and I don't think it's called yet. To me, it looks like when all the votes are counted, the Democrat will win,
Right.
that's actually a seat that is already in Democratic hands.
Yeah.
Uh, so hopefully, because otherwise we're losing. Otherwise, we'll have a net gain of 0, I think,
Right.
because we've already gained in Arizona, we've gained a seat in Colorado, and we lost one in Alabama. Doug Jones lost
Yeah.
to Tuber. So, how the balance of power works, we need to win 2 of these 3 seats to have 50 Senate seats, which mean that Kamala Harris can break the tie. I see that as kind of unlikely, but there's always a chance they can get Lisa Murkowski to defect or something. I don't know,
Yeah.
but basically this doesn't look great for having a sweeping policy agenda in the first 2 years. However, the good news is 2022 is actually looking really good for Democrats in the Senate race. And
We
we can
just
talk
want to
about,
get through 2020. We're just tired, Leo. We're
yeah,
tired. I
it's two
want to
years.
give, huh?
Well, 2 years to rest, and then we can focus on those races. Or I guess you kind of have to focus a year ahead, but
See, what people may not know about me is I might seem like a political junkie, but I am not. I mean, I feel like I used to be. I feel like I'm a recovering political junkie, like a recovering alcoholic. And you get a
yeah,
little taste, and like it's really like entertaining. That's why I wanted to jump back on today, because a lot of interesting stuff has happened. I kind of want to go through and tell the story of my night after we, I guess, broke last night. So we broke last night. I don't know what time you broke, Liam, but I was gassed by 11:30. So what time? I mean, I was done. We were watching. Our hope was based on North Carolina law, based on Georgia law. Well, North Carolina not so much, but based on Georgia law and based on the idiot from Pennsylvania, I think Secretary of State or one of the election commission officials, being very confident for no reason at all that they would be able to give us an idea of where their state was leaning. We figured that maybe we could get some pivotal results early or later on in the night that would give us a good idea of what was going on. And that did not happen. And so while little Liam has a screen share capability, I, on the other hand, have, well, while little Liam uses the whiteboard, I use screen share because I'm techie and little Liam is the I don't know. He's the Karl Rove imitator for some reason. I mean, I really enjoy it. I have to say, I really enjoy it. I did not think that he would do that, but he did. Let's see.
teacher, this is what I do.
Jesus. So, like, if we look at where we were around, it's taking a second, around last night. So last night, Georgia was still out there. Florida had already been called. Okay. What was going on with Nebraska, because keep in mind, for all you people at home watching, Nebraska and Maine, they both allocate electoral votes for the state at large as well as by congressional district. Remember, the states have a wide grant of constitutional power to decide for themselves how they want to send the real electors for the president to the college, who are then free to vote technically however they want, unless there is some sort of binding state statute to the contrary. There are interesting cases on that if you are a legal nerd like I am. But whatever, I digress. This is roughly what the map, I guess, looked like. I don't know why Texas was blue there, but that's kind of roughly where we were. I guess that was available too. Ohio was kind of being called. I think most networks had called it by that time. I got to double check for omissions because y'all know I can oversee some stuff sometimes. But I mean, this was basically the layout of the map. And, we had, if you all recall my projections, Dylan was very, 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 very optimistic. Dylan is new to this being a liberal thing. So y'all got to cut him some slack. He's not used to, he don't know how to cheer right. He was like counting on Florida. He thought Texas might. I was like, no, like we Democrats, we lose. So we get used to, you get used to the L. It don't taste that bad. So we thought, okay, with Florida gone, there was a hope that Georgia might go blue. North Carolina was still on the fence. We thought that might go blue. Virginia had already been called for Biden for the most part. And we were looking and we kept saying, Illinois was obviously blue. We kept saying, look, we're looking at these 5 states in particular. And there was a hope that Georgia could be in the bag, North Carolina could be in the bag. But toward the end of the night, it became very clear that a lot of the votes had been counted in Georgia. They have approximately 150,000 of those votes left. Liam did the math. He said around 60% of those votes have to go blue in order for Biden to win. Now, could he pull that off? Well, if you look at the county by county breakdown, most of the counties that are still left in play in Georgia, DeKalb County, I think Cobb County, Fulton County, that's the area that includes the city of Atlanta and the encompassing suburbs. All of those areas could very easily carry it for him. But at that point in time, we weren't quite sure how many votes were left. So we just said, well, probably not. And we said the same thing here with North Carolina, probably not. So that map kind of looked bleak. We had an idea that Arizona was going blue, and Fox News had projected that. And with Arizona's success, we thought Nevada would also go blue. So this was the map. And then for some reason, I was still up at 4:30 in the morning, and I saw it live on CNN, everyone's least favorite news network. I was exhausted and saw it with my own two eyes. Wisconsin flipped and never looked back. The infamous Milwaukee dump of mail-in ballots, like Liam said. We first had all the same-day election votes cast, and that gave us the initial breakdown. We knew that there were a ton of votes out of Milwaukee. Milwaukee, obviously, a populous city relative to the other areas, or I guess localities in Wisconsin, leans liberal. So that would mean that with a bunch of mail-in voting coming from there, that could turn the state. We were just wondering by how much. Indeed, that's what happened. So this was the scary part. We knew that Maine was going to give us 3 out of 4. I think Maine's second district went red, or their first district. It was their second.
You can see it right there, but yeah, that's it. So we got 4 out of 5 then.
Yeah, we knew, and this I want to give a shout out to Nebraska. He's not watching, but shout out to him in the spirit. Nathan Davis was adamant that we include the second district of Nebraska, which meant, for all intents and purposes, that, as y'all can see, well, hold on. First of all, that wasn't there either. But all Biden would really have to do with Michigan or with Wisconsin, Minnesota, the swing states that he already won.
Yeah.
If he won Michigan, he'd be at 270. And it is my belief that that's where we are right now. But there is obviously a difference between, I guess, the actual vote, because the vote doesn't get cast from the Electoral College until late December, and the projections, which, the media pundits do for fun. But based on the counts in these 3 states right here, let me do the little screen. See, look you see how techie I am?
Yeah, I like it.
So based on these 3 states, with the second district there, we know that Biden, I believe Biden is at 270 right now.
Yeah.
And with the Wisconsin vote flipping at 4:30, I guess this morning technically, thanks to that Milwaukee dump, and then a bunch of counties out of Michigan, and we can look at Michigan county by county. That breakdown is actually pretty interesting. Michigan, shout out Black people. If you see a Black person, give them a hug, because they carried the day in Michigan. And because of those 3 states and the second district and Nebraska again, that gets Biden to 270. And I believe that that's probably what the more confident people in the Biden campaign believe that the election's looking like right now. So, in other words, Joe Biden looks like he's going to be the next president of the United States. And thank God that our long national nightmare is over.
So what's interesting? Oh, for this, I would also say Georgia and North Carolina, neither have been called, and I think North Carolina looks pretty confident Trump. But if 270 looks too close for comfort for people, like Pennsylvania could still very much go blue, and Georgia too. So, but yeah, that's what's funny is that Nebraska. Thanks, Brian. That Nebraska second district, if it weren't for that, and then he lost Pennsylvania, North Carolina, and Georgia, then he would be at 269. So it'd be 269, 269. It'd be a tie. And I originally thought that that meant, oh, the House gets to decide the president. The House is going to be Democratic, so then it will be Biden. But the way
Right.
it actually each state's representatives, like the delegation of each state gets one vote. So the 53 members of Congress in California, 53 members of Congress in California get one vote. The one member of Congress in Wyoming gets one vote. So that would have gone for Trump then. Like Trump has more states where he would have the majority of the delegation. Because even in Virginia, which is a strong blue state, I think they would have the majority of the congressional delegation there.
That's a little bold of you to call Virginia a strong blue state.
Well, I mean, Northam won by 10%, and they won in 2019, even after the triple scandal of
The triple scandal.
Northam, Warner, and Fairfax.
No, it was Northam and Herring.
Yeah, Herring.
Because didn't they both do blackface? Herring and Jesus.
Herring even came out saying that he thought that Northam should resign, and then it was like 2 hours later he said, "Oh, I also did blackface." Like, okay. But
I mean, I get black is beautiful. That's the moral of that story.
he was just trying to get a hug for.
Black is beautiful, you guys.
What?
Okay, so let me see here. Oh, you can't look at fantasy football because I don't want my lineup to get leaked to my opponent. Let's see. If we look at some of the presidential stuff, the electoral map, if I can find it, I should be able to find it. And see, CNN is being very cautious, and I guess we should again, pay attention to that.
Arizona.
They called Arizona finally.
Oh no, they didn't. I think the AP called it last night, and then I think they retracted it and then recalled it this morning. But
yeah, Fox News also called Arizona last night, and apparently the Trump campaign was pissed, and that's part of the inconsistency in Trump's argument. Because, and I guess we can get to that at a certain point, but a lot of, well, not a lot, a good number of lawsuits were initiated in Wisconsin and Pennsylvania, and we might have more coming as these results become more official over the manner in which early voting was conducted, the discretion, particularly in the state of Pennsylvania, to the Secretary of State and to the Elections Commission of how they wanted to conduct the election and how they wanted to regulate it. And the Trump administration had a problem with it. And long story short, to save you the lecture, the argument was stop voting here, where he was winning for most of the night last night, but keep voting here. We don't want y'all to keep voting over there. Stop the count here where I'm up by 9 with like 45% reporting. But keep going here where I'm down by 3 with like 70% reporting, because there are irregularities that have yet to be substantiated and probably won't ever be substantiated in Pennsylvania and Wisconsin that aren't here. And that's Trump's bullshit way of basically trying to argue, look, I won't win, and if I lose, it's rigged. So, I mean, if we look at Michigan for a second, and I'm going to do my best John King impersonation, there obviously, you look at Wayne County, that obviously votes very liberally because that's where Detroit is. Note the margin is 67.6%. That's actually a slight, I think that overperforms or outperforms Hillary's total in that area. Then you look at Oakland, That's similar to Hillary's margin. You look at, where else? Not Saginaw, but Genesee, which includes the city of Flint, Michigan. That's kind of on par, if not a slight underperformance to what Hillary did. So how how does Biden manage to flip this state while only slightly better than Hillary Clinton in the areas that he needs to run up the score, essentially? And that's because of this little county right here, Saginaw. Saginaw traditionally is kind of conservative, and somehow, some way, they were able to flip it. Biden is winning by a small advantage there, and with turnout everywhere else so high, that translates to a Biden win. So Saginaw became a key swing county where it had not been historically, along with the high turnout in critical areas here that really produces this flip that we see. And the lack of third parties to siphon off votes from either side turned out to really, I think, help Biden more so than Trump. And I think, for all the anti third party people out there, this might be your election that you could point to and say, see, we told you. When you vote third party, you screw everybody. Because we see that evidence they usually offer in the negative, and when they point to the 2000 election or obviously the 2016 election. But this is a pretty good apples to apples comparison of similar economic considerations, which is white people code for racism, uh, similar kind of demographics. Basically, the country's roughly the same, except for the fact that there's a raging pandemic, and we have third parties in one election, third parties not in this one. And you see, without a libertarian or a Green Party candidate there to take away votes, Biden's the bigger beneficiary. Maybe there's an argument there that Hillary would have been the beneficiary of a similar fate had there not been third party candidates to spoil her race as well. But I don't know. I'm just throwing that out there. I don't believe that, but that's something that one might try to argue.
I think
I don't
what
know.
people believe is like the reason third-party candidates can gain popularity is if the candidates themselves, if people have such concerns about the candidates themselves, because like as much as you can complain that Jill Stein was a spoiler, like Jill Stein might not have been as popular if there weren't so many frustrated Bernie supporters who felt like they'd been cheated. And
Right.
yeah, I think a lot of those people would have just stayed home if they didn't vote for Jill Stein.
Yeah. So I mean, that's food for thought, I guess. I mean, how do we feel that the election is so? It wasn't the blowout that people wanted. Is that going to be a problem? Is that a problem?
Um, well, I saw this. Someone shared Van Jones talking about the election. He said, there's the moral victory and the political victory,
Mm,
and we're probably going to get the political victory, which it looks like we are. It looks like Biden's going to get it. Maybe he won't get the Senate political victory, um, but as far as everyone, I was expecting a landslide, especially with this pandemic and just Trump. It seems like has really, I mean, it seems like he's been doing everything intentionally wrong for the last month, in my opinion. He lost both the debates. But even with all of that, it's coming down to this close that we have to wait 2 days to know. And I don't know, like he might win 270 to 268, or if he gets Pennsylvania, I guess then it will go up. Or, but regardless, this isn't the landslide that a lot of people expected, even a lot of Republicans expected.
right.
Uh, and that kind of I think that can be concerning to a lot of people that like I don't know a candidate who refused to condemn white supremacy in the first debate and then like complained that people were asking him to follow up about it after that. And
Right.
I don't know, I think it's people probably don't feel very great about the fact like maybe a lot of people are thinking if there wasn't a pandemic maybe we'd have a reelected President Trump right now. I, I think
That's a scary thought. I mean, I guess there's no way to put to put lipstick on that pig.
But I mean, the thing is, a win is a win. I think Democrats are notorious for celebrating coming close to winning. So we should definitely not be sad about coming close to losing the one time we actually win.
See, look at God. It's like being a football team fan, a Washington football team fan. You see, I got it right this time. It's like, when you're used to losing to teams you have no business losing against, and you finally bring it all together. It doesn't matter how ugly. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter that you threw 5 interceptions. It doesn't matter that you had 25 penalties. You won the game, and that's all that matters. That's all that matters. And we won. We got a national nightmare that's behind us. We can sleep. We can rest easy. I know y'all don't want me to be this confident, but we just walked you through the math. It's over. It's a wrap. We'll have a lawsuit. That's fine. We'll have a Supreme Court. That's a little disconcerting, but that's fine as well. The votes are the votes. There really isn't much to be said. Now I will say this, and this is to the one of the lawsuits. The one to watch out for is the one in Pennsylvania, I think. Now he filed another one today, but he filed some, like, I want to say, 2 or 3 weeks ago, or lawyers on his behalf. And the one that he filed today is bullshit. I mean, that's not going anywhere. It's him whining and complaining that he couldn't send poll watchers to. Well, no, I think this was actually a legitimate, like, oh, like we wanted to send people to watch them count, which happens in every state, and they're complaining that they were intimidated with little to no evidence of that. So, I mean, if it is true, they'd have a plausible legal complaint, but it looks as though preliminary reporting suggests that that's not true. So put that lawsuit to the side. The one that you might want to keep an eye on is uh, I think it's I forgot this woman's name. It's kind of weird. Bukvar v. Pennsylvania, or Bukvar v. Republicans of Pennsylvania, or Pennsylvania Republicans, and basically they're bringing suit against the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania because they believe that the Supreme Court in the state of Pennsylvania had unlawfully extended the deadline to receive mail in ballots. Now, we just walked through and we explained a lot of the possible turnaround that could be benefiting the Democrats and could possibly carry the state for Joe Biden or mail in. And so the state statute that's, at binding law there, I think it's Act 77 there is it's the shorthand for it, says that ballots have to be in by election day. The judge flat out contradicted that, wrote in the opinion that they acknowledged that they didn't come to that decision based on any kind of statutory construction or interpretation. That's a huge red flag for all the lawyers who are like, okay. And they contradicted the law, and a lot of these votes could very well be influential in helping to swing the state. The Supreme Court heard this case about, again, 2 weeks ago. The Supreme Court of the United States on appeal after the Republicans did not get what they wanted from the lower courts. And the Supreme Court basically said, we'd love to rule on it, but we don't have enough time. Well, when the election is concluded, they'll have some time. And whether or not the judge's arbitrary, sort of willful, willful omission or oversight, I'll put it that way, of the statute, whether or not that poses a due process concern, whether or not there's a workable remedy to that due process concern, and how that affects the outcome of the vote tally. Those are things that could kind of come back to scare us in a Bush v. Gore type of way. That's throwing that out there in case you like a little suspense, you like a little drama, you like to get stressed out. I mean, there it is.
So that would only matter if Pennsylvania was necessary to win.
Correct. Which is why I think our previous map is so instructive. And it's also instructive of Donald Trump's strategy. So if somehow the roles were reversed, and I guess this is a good time to break out the screen share again. You're welcome. Y'all can see how techie I am.
I can just draw a picture if you want.
I would kind of want to see that, but I feel like it would take a minute. I want to spare your hand. I don't want you to get the arthritis. So what did I do with it? I'll just draw it up. I'll just bring it up again. So if we take a look at it, and by the way, Dylan says he's on his way, so you'll get to talk to Dylan. If we take out Michigan, take out Wisconsin, take out Michigan for a second. Let's say, Michigan goes red and Biden wins Pennsylvania. Okay. That brings Biden to 274. But that lawsuit could come back to bite Biden in the you-know-what with an unfavorable ruling. And this is why the liberals were freaking out over Brett Kavanaugh, who ludicrously cited the most controversial court case of all time and one of the previous election cases leading up in this cycle, and scared a lot of Democrats into thinking that the court was open to intervening in how states were counting votes. So, if they did it once, is the fear they can do it again when the stakes are that much higher. As you can see, if in this scenario, right, if, for some reason had Trump won, Biden would need Pennsylvania. And so a lawsuit on this matter could flip it. And guess who's still president? But because, and thanks be to God through Christ Jesus, we don't have to deal with that, because in my opinion, I think it's, pretty safe to say Michigan is going to, in some states, some outlets, I should say, have already projected Michigan, by the way. Michigan is pretty safely in the Biden column, and the Wisconsin is definitively in the Biden column. And I don't know if you were watching MSNBC when this happened, Liam, but apparently that story is actually pretty funny. So with this scenario, Joe Biden, it doesn't matter what happens to Pennsylvania. If he wins it, it's icing on the cake. If for some reason it stays with Trump because of a court ruling or otherwise, it doesn't matter. But, and this is where I think we are right now. So,
I really think Georgia is still very in play.
I hear that. I feel like the margin of write-in votes would have to be so overwhelming, and even then, just where are the votes really there, right? If you look at again the big counties that you're going to get Democratic support from. We can look at them, right? If we pulled it up, let me see.
Because I think Ossoff, it's probably not realistic to say he'll win, but I think Biden is doing a little bit better than Ossoff.
So this is what I'm concerned about. Are the votes there, right? Are the votes there? If it'll let me pull it up. Okay. So here, this is Fulton County. We're at 93% reporting. Okay. So there's only going to be so many. And he has about, if you do the quick math there, what's that? About 60,000 vote deficit to make up for?
So he, about 300,000 votes remaining there. When I checked last, what's the total reporting for Georgia?
So Georgia in total, I think, is 95.
Okay, so when I checked, it was 94, and there were 308,500 votes left to count. And Biden needed 59.3% of those to win. Oh, hey, how's it going, Dylan?
Hey, how are you?
Hey, everybody. See, I told you he'd be back. He back.
Oh, and it looks like Biden actually went. Biden was at 48.8 before, and Trump was at 49.9. So it's closed. The margin's closed by 0.2, even just with that 1% of reporting.
Yeah.
So
I mean, okay, I'll be positive. Fine, I'll be positive. It's hard for me to see it. I don't know, because these mail-in votes would have to be like you said, 60-40, 70-30 in favor of Joe Biden in these areas. And with only so many coming in that are left, like look at Fulton County, that is where that is at 93. Another big one, DeKalb County, that's around 10% left to report. Cobb County, 11%. That number's been stuck for a little while.
But aren't those percents sufficient?
Huh?
Aren't those, if those percentages hold or expand? I mean, presumably they would, since you're adding mail-in ballots. I mean, wouldn't that be sufficient?
Yeah, they would hold, but I guess my point is how many, if those percentages hold over the X amount of ballots that are left to be counted.
Right,
I still don't know if that's enough to make up for the 60,000, because I mean, there's only but so many votes that are left to be counted. I mean, these percentages are pretty high, and I guess in populous areas, even a small percentage can net out a pretty big chunk of votes. But I guess my bad math skills kind of made me more reticent to chalk that into the Biden column just yet, even with the positive results we've seen in other areas of the country that have given Biden the lead through early voting.
I would not want to be banking on it if I thought that we needed it to win, but because they're already at 270, and this would just be basically just points in the plus column that he could win by more than 270, 268. Right. I'm a little bit hopeful for this. I think that's the same way I feel about Pennsylvania with that lawsuit coming.
Yeah.
And I don't know. My other fear is, do you think there's any legitimate fear for a faithless elector?
No.
I'd say
that's a good question.
Based on the recent Supreme Court ruling, I mean, they can pretty much just endlessly replace them now.
Yeah, and thank you for bringing that up, Dylan, because we talked about that for a very brief second. But I think it was a case out of Colorado. Did you read that opinion?
I did not.
Dylan, did you see it?
Yeah, basically the argument was you had a few individuals in Colorado and a couple other states who were, these were from Colorado, who were, the people mostly Clinton electors trying to vote for anyone else, but I mean, they weren't going to Trump. They were just protest votes for someone they knew had already lost.
A few they tried to do a few for Sanders, right.
And so what these states did was, instead of letting them cast their ballot, they just replaced them with new electors, or I guess what their parties did, since they're the ones who choose the electors that are elected. And the Supreme Court said, yeah, they can do that. You don't have the right as a faithless elector to vote however you like.
Well, fair enough.
So I'd hope not. I mean, that's something's going to happen. I mean, be talked about a lot if you have 270 people, and or 270 votes, and that's he needs a buffer.
Yeah, I saw the opinion on that case on the circuit level. I think it was like the 10th or something circuit. I don't know what circuit that is, but I saw that opinion, which was split. They heard the in the partial panel, in the 3-judge panel, 2-1, I think, in favor of the electors. I think they might have reversed it when they heard the case en banc. Did the Supreme Court grant cert and explicitly say what your analysis basically just indicated? Or did they just deny cert altogether and allow the full opinion of the appellate court to stand?
No, I think it was a full hearing, and I think they granted cert and had a full issued a full opinion on it.
Okay, so I mean, if that's
it was very much after the fact. I mean, this came out in June, I think.
Yeah. So I mean, if that's the case, then I mean, there's your answer, Liam. That's the binding law, and the law is the law. And I know we all have fears about the Supreme Court, given our PTSD over one Albert Gore, but the law is binding, and I think I have disproportionate faith in the Supreme Court because well, there's little else left to believe in, number one. And number two, I mean, the law is a practice. It's sort of a science, a quasi science, if you will. It's not just judges going up there, standing up there, and just saying, today I decided that abortions are illegal. There's a process within itself that binds judges to certain principles of jurisprudence that are so well enmeshed within how we do things as a country that you can't just flout them. So if that's the binding law, you're going to keep in mind that there are going to be a whole bunch of courts on the lower level that are going to enforce that law. And then there's going to be the question of whether or not it can even get up there for the Supreme Court to affirm or deny a disadvantageous outcome. So, I mean, there's a process here, and we have the law that would be on the side of preventing a faithless elector. So, I think we can be comfortable with that. So,
that is a little reassuring.
I get the concern though, but
I also think I guess you wouldn't hear at this point, but I'd heard the same thing about like anti-Clinton faithless electors. I think there was one in Washington too, or is it just the Colorado one?
No, it was Washington, Colorado. I think there were a couple Trump ones in Texas, and then I think a few tried in New Hampshire, maybe Maine. Like there were a lot in 2016, more than any modern election.
Liam just smiles. That's okay.
I remember something where one of the electors got drunk and wrote, instead of writing John Kerry in 2004,
Yeah.
E words, like not even John Edwards, they were John E words.
Oh
Yeah.
God.
I don't remember if he actually switched them or if he voted for John Ewards and John Edwards. Like they were the same. I don't know if John Kerry even got a vote from that guy.
Can someone explain to me again the appeal of what was John Kerry's appeal again? Why did people, or John Edwards' appeal? Why did people like him? I never really got that.
I mean, he's from North Carolina. I don't know if they thought it would help in the South or something.
I always thought he was supposed to be like the Democrats' George Bush, a young, attractive Southern guy. I don't think it worked.
Apparently, he was a little too attractive. Just saying.
That did seem to be his downfall, didn't it?
There you go. That wasn't. It is what it is, though. Well, I mean, how do you feel, Dylan? You're just fresh in here. How do you feel about the results? And we had an interesting night last night. We were both on the roller coaster, up and down, off the air. So, what was that like?
I went to bed thinking that Donald Trump was probably going to win.
Oh, really?
I went to bed at like 4:30 a.m. And I was just like, I'm done. Like, I can't do it anymore. Hoping that the blue wall would hold. I knew that Arizona alone wasn't going to do it. This morning, I woke up and saw the Milwaukee numbers and the Philadelphia numbers start to come in, and the Detroit numbers. And instantly I went from, just despair to, utter joy. And, that I've been riding that wave all day, and I am just counting down the minutes until Nevada gets called and we got 270. I mean, I expect Biden to probably also win Pennsylvania, and I do think he's going to win Georgia.
Right? I'm not.
Y'all are so positive. I need to start rooting for some winning teams to get myself out of the loser's mentality.
I mean, the one I stayed, I'm not really sure why is still up there is North Carolina. I don't see it happening. That to me is just, that one's done. But maybe, who knows?
I got 270 to 268.
I think it's just a lot more fun to do the math of like what percent of the remaining vote they need when it's not a do or die situation. Like,
oh yeah.
So what percent of rural Wisconsin does Hillary need, and what percent of
that was nerve wracking.
I think we just in the 270 268 scenario, which is not unthinkable. I think we just need to take a moment and really appreciate the 2nd District of Nebraska.
Shout out Nebraska.
That will save us from Congress electing the president.
I want to give a shout out to Nathan Davis again. This is the 2nd time we shouted him out. Go ahead. Sorry, Liam. What you say?
Last night I kept just checking, and then Nebraska came up, and then I actually had put something on my Instagram story because I was doing the live stream and I didn't update. I was like, well, Nebraska went to Biden. Nebraska's 2nd went to Biden, so I think he's gonna win. And then I went to
There you go.
That's all he needed. He got Arizona and 1 vote in Nebraska. What more could he want?
Pretty much.
Yeah, I guess I was really confident about Michigan and Wisconsin. Like, the polling was great there leading up to it, and then Minnesota came back better than the polling, I think. So
I mean, what I think people forgot a little bit was, these early voting numbers were going to be so in favor of Biden. But I mean, Biden winning by what, 1% in Wisconsin, 1% in Michigan, like that's not great. The polling was quite a bit off, and so maybe that fear is a little justified. I think for me,
let me point out real quick. Remember that Wisconsin has the recount law, and the Trump campaign team has already made clear that they will seek the recount.
So they will have to pay for it if it's over.
They have the money. They should have the money.
Oh, I don't know.
Really?
$3 million.
They should have that. I'd be surprised if they didn't have it.
No, I would hope they have it.
Yeah. What you say, Liam?
Oh yeah, so they're at 99%. So they haven't completely finished counting that, but
no. Let me tell you what happened. So I don't know. Y'all were actually doing adult things. I had PT and then was done for the day and recovered from last night. Megan Wolf, who is the head or the interim head technically of the Wisconsin Commission on Elections, went on MSNBC and said all of the votes have been counted, which prompted MSNBC, who was at that time reporting 97% reporting, said, what? And she said, yeah, all the votes have been counted. Like, y'all didn't know that? If you followed all of our county websites, which is what she kept saying, they all said that all of their votes were in. So at that point, it became clear that the estimated aggregate, which apparently in the state of Wisconsin, they don't tell you, hey, we have this many votes, news media, and we're going to start counting who voted for whom. It's an estimate based on, I don't know, voting patterns, history, analytics that I'm not qualified to go into. So it became clear that their estimated aggregate was way off. Well, not way off, but off enough to make us believe that we were still waiting on votes that weren't coming. So the margin of victory at that time that Joe Biden had, and this happened at around 12:30, was around 20,000 votes. And that's held for the rest of the day. So that's consistent with what the commissioner said. So it looks like, Joe Biden is now technically the apparent winner in Wisconsin and has been for a long time. And the other networks that are saying 99 or 97 or 98, they're wrong because their estimates were slightly off. That's the story that was very weird. And it happened, I learned about it on Twitter because some asshat with a blue check said, congratulations, Joe Biden, for winning Wisconsin. I am projecting it. I'm like, who are you to project anything? And then I saw that clip on MSNBC and lost my mind.
I think there's a weirder story out of Wisconsin. Have y'all heard about the clerk of like one of the precincts who just in the middle of, as Melissa, I was talking to her today, she put it, the probably the most important professional day of her life, just left work in the middle of the day. She went home sick, didn't tell anyone, and like seems to have taken 300 ballots with her. And they went to her house to find her, and she wasn't there. Her husband isn't there. They can't like get a hold of these people. They won't answer the phone. And like no one knows what happened to them.
That's gonna be in an affidavit for a lawsuit about fraud. This woman stole 300 ballots. I told you it's rigged. I told you.
Go
Go ahead.
I haven't heard an update from them yet. I wonder if they found her.
That's crazy. I guess. I mean, hey, I felt that. I feel that sometimes it just gets to be so overwhelming, and you tired. I feel tired just thinking about it. So
Oh,
I can
okay.
appreciate just walking off the job.
So there's an update from about an hour ago. The county clerk from Willow, the township of Willow, uh, returned the 304 votes that hadn't been reported
Good.
at 3:00 p.m. in Wisconsin. The town clerk would not comment on the delay, but did acknowledge that it is unusual to wait this long.
Where did she go? She went to lunch?
For a day?
I don't know. Maybe, sometime, was she black?
Nope.
Okay, because if she was black, because black people, I can say this because I've been black for 10 years now.
And
What?
An important distinction: the votes that set of 304 votes went to Trump by 43 votes.
Oh, that's good.
So
That's really
Trump
good.
Votes.
She tried to steal the Trump votes, but she gave them back. Well, if she was black, I will say, if she was black, she was probably just taking a late lunch. Black people, we like to, when we go on break, we break, okay? We don't sit at the desk. We don't eat, at the little cheese and crackers at the desk. We want to go to a sit-down restaurant, and then, we might go to the mall. And, maybe she just did that. She just got tired, and, she scoured the town. So there's nothing wrong with that. And she had a few ballots. She was working real hard. She had a few ballots in a little knapsack and probably forgot about them. So nothing wrong with that.
And then did not go home for 24 hours.
Well, I don't know. Things happen. Sometimes, you got to go stop by, see a friend. I don't know. No idea.
On election day when you're the county clerk.
Hey, she probably thought her job.
It seems like a good day to take lunch. One day my job is relevant.
Hey, my job's done. People are voting. There's no conflicts. Oh my Lord. As Dylan takes a phone call. Now I'm taking a phone call. I don't know if this is real or not. Give me 1 second, Liam.
Check. I'm checking on the Senate races at the moment. All right. Well, the New York Times page is not loading for some reason on my computer. Oh, here we go. Okay. So that's interesting. So North Carolina's at 94%. Georgia now says is at 92%, but when I checked earlier, it was 93%. I don't know if it's the same situation where the projections are off of the percent that's come in. Okay. And now it's if I just Google it, I think this is showing the Associated Press. They have it as 97% reporting. So if that's accurate, I'd have to assume that that Ossoff can no longer win because he's at, although they haven't called it, but he is at a 2.7%. 2.7% disadvantage right now with, let's say, so that's, I can do the math really quick here. So they're saying it's now at 90. Well, this is different from the New York Times for some reason. But the AP is saying it's 97% reporting with Purdue at 50.2% and Ossoff at 47.5%. And there are 330, whoop, I can't be right. I'm just calculating the total votes. So it should be 4,829,259 votes total. That's only including the Libertarian, Republican, Democratic candidate. So say I'll round that up to 830,000 votes. And well, actually, I think that's probably fair if there are some other third-party candidates or independents running, or some write-ins. So then there's 3% remaining. So if I take that number, divide it by 0.97, and then multiply that by 0.03, that would be the number of votes that are remaining. So
yeah,
that's,
I gotta duck off for a minute. I'll come back later.
so we got 149,360 votes remaining. That's an approximation. And John Ossoff would need to make up a lead of 2.7. So that seems probably unreasonable, but let's see. Let's see what that would take. So currently he's down by currently he's down by 131,546 votes. Okay, so I think this is pretty much in the bag for Purdue, if this is accurate. So that would mean that Purdue, or okay. So if the estimate is correct from the AP, then that means that Purdue only needs 6% of the remaining vote to win. So I don't know why, if they have an accurate reading of the percent of the votes that they've counted, I don't know why they would not have called it for Purdue yet. Because I think 6% of the remaining 150,000 votes. I don't know what county. I don't know what county they think Ossoff could win 94% of the votes, but I don't know. I think that's safe to say we probably lost that seat. So I guess our hope lies in that special election race with Loeffler, or that the AP misreported this, or it lies with Cal Cunningham. But if I had to guess, I'd say we're probably going to have 48 or 49 Senate seats come January.
Fair enough. Thank you for holding it down, Liam, by the way. I'm sorry. Just a friend of mine just called me. I heard the news about Ossoff. That doesn't look too good.
Well, so the weird thing is that's from the AP. So if you Google it, that's the numbers that come up.
Right.
But New York Times is only saying 92% of the vote is reported, which if that's the case, then it's still at that like 70% that Ossoff needs to win.
Right. That's weird. Yeah.
I think it might be similar to that Wisconsin situation where they're misestimating it.
Yeah.
It was like percent reporting numbers with a grain of salt. I don't know. Definitely, I would not put too much.
He was up by what? I saw you had your little Karl Rove board out. He was up by how much?
So he's up by 2.7%.
Okay.
So if that's with 3% reporting or 3% of the vote left to be counted, that's impossible to make up. If that's with 8% of the vote reporting or the vote left to count, like New York Times says, then maybe we have some hope. But
Yeah. So what does that put us with Ossoff out? Warnock stuck in a he's on a how do I put it? He's on the trail to being obliterated by Loeffler in a runoff probably.
oh, Warnock.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm really curious to see what's going to happen because I think a lot of Republican voters are just turning out for Trump, and I think if Trump's not on the ballot, I don't know what's going to happen, and
Yeah.
there'll be a lot of money poured in there. Um, and like I said, like Loeffler, that whole insider trading thing,
Mm-hmm.
really campaign if they're just putting a ton of money into campaigning against her specifically, because I assume in this jungle primary they probably didn't do anything against her because they wanted her to be the one they face off in the runoff.
Right.
Oh, I think she's vulnerable. That seat is possible, but even so, without Cal Cunningham winning, um,
Kyle Cunningham. Sorry, I love that name.
Cal Cunningham had kept it in his pants, then we might have been able to take back the Senate. But
Liam, everybody needs some love. Calm down. Don't hate on him.
yeah,
Don't hate, as it was once said, don't hate the player, hate the game.
yeah, and he's got. I mean, he also apparently it's against what he did was against the law for people in the military. It might
Really?
be able to have an extramarital affair, but especially if it's with someone else who served in the military.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know what the consequences of that are.
Oh, as in, okay, I know what you're talking about, the fraternization clause.
Hmm.
Or one of the, yeah. That might be in the Code of Justice, military code. That's a good point.
So
Yeah,
with
that's interesting.
kicked out of like he would get like dishonorably discharged, or could he get like
I'm not sure. I don't know. I know you're right. It is a rule of some sort, but I'm not exactly sure. So what are we left with? So we with Cunningham not looking too good, Ossoff not looking too good. We have +1 from the Kelly race and the Hickenlooper race, and then the pickup that Alabama got. So probably what? What would you say at this point?
if if all three of these go away, I still think because Michigan's race still hasn't been called. I actually don't even remember the senators. Michigan Senate race. So that's Gary Peters. So he's
Yeah.
up right now. Actually, he's up right now. They haven't called it, but it says 98% reporting, and he's up by 1.6.
Mm-hmm.
Michigan, I think the late votes that are coming in. So I think Gary Peters is safe. So I think
Okay.
right now we're at net +1. I don't know. I still think there's a chance we'll pick up one more, but we needed a net +3.
Right.
Right. So I think it's going to be 49 to 51. But I don't know. On one hand, you could say even that 49 is kind of weak because Joe Manchin is not going to side with anything too extreme. But as far as things with healthcare, I think if we're talking about maybe trying to expand Medicare so that it covers anyone over the age of 60, that might be something Murkowski would be on board with, or maybe even Romney. I mean, Obamacare was kind of modeled off of the Massachusetts system that passed with him, and I mean, he's shown that he's willing to break with the party.
Right. I'm glad you're the only one nerdy enough to remember that. But people forget Obamacare was Romney care.
Yeah. And then he ran against it saying like, yeah, I don't think Obamacare is good. We need a system like this. And he explained what Obamacare was. It's like, okay.
Pretty much. Yeah. So.
But yeah. So and then, I mean, even Susan Collins, I don't know. She broke with the party to like she could have done the skinny repeal for Obamacare, and she broke with the party for that. So I think with healthcare things, she might break with the party.
I don't care about Susie Collins anymore. I'm done with her.
Well, I thought she was totally out. I thought it was her and who was the guy in Colorado? I don't remember his name.
Gardner.
Yeah, I thought those two were the most certain would be out, but I don't know. Collins must have pulled something off. There's a lot of people. There were a lot of Biden Collins split ticket. Like she won even before because they have ranked choice voting in me. She won
Mhm.
before the first round. Like in the first round, she won. They didn't even have to break like the libertarian candidate's second choices into her or anything.
Yeah.
And it seemed Sarah Gideon was polling really well. I think every poll had her ahead, so I was a little surprised.
Yeah. Well, I mean, let's see. We didn't get much of a chat going, but I do want to shout out a few people who did stop by at some point, including, I think your mama stopped by.
Oh, really?
Yeah. She says, "Hi, Liam. North Carolina has to accept ballots until Friday." Um, I guess two of my brothers stopped by. And Waiter laughed. So that's all right. Sam's coming. I'm sure Dylan will come back at some point. I'm not exactly sure. We're waiting on Nevada. Keeps counting very slowly. Don't know what's going on with that. Um, but I think we expect at this point, as we already talked about, Nevada will probably stay for blue, but their margin is narrower than what it was in 2016. Am I right?
In Nevada?
Yes.
Um, let's see. In 2016, Hillary got 47.92% to Trump's 45.5%. So that's 2.42 she won by.
Right.
Or 20, she won by, what is that? 27,200 votes.
Yeah.
27,200. What's Biden up? He was up by like 8,000 earlier, but
Yes, he's still up by 8,000. It's taken them forever.
well, I think they stopped reporting. I think they said they're not going to report the counting as they go. And I didn't see a press release about it or anything, but that's I think my cousin told me that.
That's okay.
And I think it is a response to Trump saying that he won. Like they didn't want to give him any fodder to, I don't know, say he was up or anything.
Yeah, can we talk about that dictatorial speech for a second? Because I didn't watch it. Did you watch it?
I did not know.
Good. Good. That's probably for the best. He is in my mind, it's over. He is 2 months away from no longer being president of the United States. I mean, one could argue he could be indicted.
That's what I mean. Someone was saying Trump will probably run again in 2024. I think good chance he might not even live that long. He is kind of old, but I don't know. He survived COVID, so who knows? But the other thing, he might be in
That sounds so bad, but yeah.
prison, or he might have fled the country by 2024. Like,
with what money? He owes everybody everything. He owes $400 million. But yeah, it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. He could be indicted. Could be dead. Could be dead. He eats. We read off his McDonald's meal, by the way, his McDonald's order. I don't know if you saw that. Well, no, you were streaming. But have you read it? It's the two Big Macs, a fillet of fish, a large fry, and like a milkshake or something like that. And that's just
that's one meal.
I think that's a one meal, yeah. That was very sweet of you not to make a joke about that, because there are plenty of jokes to be made. First of all, who eats the filet, filet whatever, the filet o fish at McDonald's? I can't eat fish, but I'm sure it's just disgusting over there.
I'm surprised. I mean, that seems like something like Michael Phelps would be like. Didn't Michael Phelps eat that big of a meal at McDonald's when he was training for the Olympics? Like,
oh Jesus!
They talked about he was eating like 3 Big Macs and.
Well, I guess when you're burning 8 to 10,000 calories a day, I'm sure it's fine.
Oh, did you see Trump's pinned tweet on Twitter?
No.
YMCA.
Oh my God. He needs to understand that not a lot of people like him.
Well, apparently more than I thought like him still. I honestly thought he was going to get just destroyed today or yesterday, and he got more votes than Obama got in 2012. Like
Yeah, that's a nice thought, isn't it?
I don't know. I think that's a little concerning but I also think that his supporters, it's kind of a cult of personality more than anything about his ideology. I think that there won't necessarily be another Republican who can replicate, like if you put Tom Cotton up or something, I don't necessarily think he'll have the same support Trump did.
It's interesting that you use that word cult of personality because there are other leaders who fit a particular pattern of things like cult of personality and nativism and anti-intellectualism and scapegoating and all these other things that magically conjure up this little thing we call let's play hangman. Let's play hangman, Liam. You ready to?
I'm ready.
What is that word where you have
Let's go with an E. Ooh.
oh there it is.
How about a Y?
It's that cult of personality with the mixture of a little bit of nativism and anti-intellectualism. What is that we call it? Man,
See an
I think there is an I. You got to help me with this word, Liam, because I don't know.
Is there an S?
I think there are a few S's. I'm not quite sure. Oh man.
All right, let's see M.
Oh, is there an M? I think there's an M. Oh man.
Okay. Oh, I know what it is. Okay. So we have
Is it masochism? Is that it?
I think. Do we have a C there though?
I don't know. I don't know. What's that word? Ism. Shism. Shism. Oh.
A?
Is there a what?
An A?
Oh my lord. Ashism. Ashism.
Are you ready to solve the puzzle or?
Yeah.
All right. I think we got fascism, right?
Da, 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 da. Yeah! You tell him what he's won. There it is. Man, wow.
I got to get that little endorsement for Yay up there. Do you see when Kanye's concession on Twitter?
Who got an endorsement from Ye? What'd you say?
Put the YE up there.
Oh Lord.
But did you see his concession speech on Twitter?
Oh, there's not a path to 270 for Kanye West.
He
Who
said,
would have thought? Your mom played with us. Populism, fascism. She got it. Go ahead.
Welp, Kanye West 2024.
Oh my God. He is mentally unwell. They need to get him some help, man. It's actually really sad. They need to get him some help and let him languish like this. Oh God. Well, let's do a few more results and then I guess we can let the people at home go because I know we're all electioned out, but I thought it was important that we give everybody an update and to hopefully calm some fears out there. Huh?
You want to start talking about 2022?
You know what? Yes, you may. You may talk about 20. The floor is yours.
It's gonna be all right. Well, I was really feeling down about the Senate because I think Biden's going to have pretty much no power to do anything outside. Maybe some things with healthcare, maybe some slight adjustments to Obamacare. But in 2022, we've got a lot of Republicans defending their seats. It's all the ones we lost in 2016, mostly by really small margins. So Florida's up again with Marco Rubio, North Carolina with Richard Burr, who's retiring. So North Carolina,
Good.
maybe Cal will get a second shot. I don't know if we'll trust him.
We'll try it one more time with Cal Cunningham.
But we've got, or maybe Roy Cooper could maybe run. He's really popular.
Yeah.
I don't know if he want to end his term 2 years early, but then Pennsylvania, we've got Pat Toomey is the Republican. He's up. Wisconsin, another guy's retiring, Ron Johnson. So that's probably going to be good. Then Georgia, the winner of this special election has to run again in 2022. So if that's Loeffler or if that's Warnock, we'll see.
Mm-hmm.
Iowa, Chuck Grassley, he's been there forever, but
he is not well. I watched him during the confirmation hearings. Yikes. That's all I got to say.
He might retire too. Sometimes they don't announce this far out.
Yeah.
And then Missouri is, I don't know if Missouri is still on the table. Jason Kander, maybe if he ran, he would have a shot. He's like really popular there. He's won statewide, but Missouri's been trending kind of the wrong way for Democrats. And then I was thinking Indiana, maybe if Pete Buttigieg runs.
That's a good point.
Their guy Todd Young, I think, is a first-term senator. And then we would have to defend a couple seats. So Nevada got Catherine Cortez Masto, New Hampshire, Maggie Hassan, and then Colorado, Michael Bennett, who's that guy who ran for president.
Hey, I like Michael Bennett.
I like it. He sounds like the teacher from South Park, but
okay. Probably was based on him.
But yeah, I think I don't know. That gave me a little more hope when I looked at that. And then there's like California, we're defending a seat, and some other ones that are just really not competitive. Oklahoma, but yeah. So it's possible 2022 we could gain some seats, so we might gain some power, and I think that's going to be important because I honestly think the Democrats need to get statehood for DC and Puerto Rico.
Yeah,
4 more Senate seats, and that's guaranteed or pretty much 6 electoral votes in every presidential election.
Right. And I was just gonna say, because that's one of the theories that Dylan has about what we thought would happen with this election happened. What would the Democrats' first move be? And his argument was exactly what you said, making DC and Puerto Rico a state, and basically looking for ways to reform the Senate and sort of the wells of power in Washington. And then Supreme Court reform, which is a topic I'm sure I'm deeply unpopular with, because I have unpopular opinions about the Supreme Court.
So, like against
I'm fine. What?
You're against reforming? Like you want to leave it as is, or?
I mean, this comes across as completely naive, but I'm just going to say it. Like there's really not much wrong with it. I mean, what's wrong with it? Because you have to understand, I think people have to be reminded that the court is not supposed to be a political entity. I'm sure the argument to that is, well, it's being made into one by the Republican Party. It's like, well, yes and no. I mean, we panicked about Neil Gorsuch, and what happened? He just wrote the Comstock opinion, which was one of the more progressive readings of the civil rights law in a very long time. It's going to be one of those seminal, frequently cited cases for years to come because of Neil Gorsuch, Republican appointee. and we panicked about him. Had we had our way, he wouldn't be on the court. Okay, Kavanaugh's unqualified. Throw him out. I don't care about him. He has none of my respect, and he lost a bunch of the respect of um, actual intellectuals when he pulled that intellectual bullshit with the Bush v. Gore citation and his trash opinion, and said that a state ended their early voting, Vermont, when it did not. Like, did not even bother to check himself. So throw him out. Okay. Amy Coney Barrett. It remains to be seen. People are scared, but I'm not. Honestly, could Obamacare be next in line to go? Possibly. But even if it were, why would we look at that as a bad thing in the long run? I think we all know, and maybe the Republicans called this because they were kind of hysterical about this when it first was legislated, but this is kind of the stopgap between our own national health care program, sort of along the lines of not so much England's system, but probably Canada's system, where you have a large government insurance provider and private healthcare providers um, giving out care to the majority of the American people. So, I mean, you have these people who've been appointed and confirmed. You have a court, the the broad share of its opinions being 9-0 or unanimous, and then you have a handful of cases each term that have political import that are ideally decided on non-political on the back of a non-political rationale. And because we don't like the outcome, we freak out. It's like, well, no, these political cases or these cases of political importance are getting decided with using legal reasoning. And so that means that sometimes the law dictates a a non-favorable, a disadvantageous political outcome. And that's okay. Our system is designed that way. That's the whole principle of checks and balances. And our reaction to it should not be to panic or overcorrect. Packing the court, I think, is a dangerous idea. It should be to ride this current. I kind of look at it as a blessing in disguise because it will keep Democrats moderated. They can do aggressive domestic policy without crossing the bounds of constitutionality. And that will force them to build a broader consensus. They have to make inroads with the Trump people. This will force them to do that. And if you can weather this wave, you have conservatives who have to retire. Clarence Thomas has to retire at some point. I mean, it's Clarence Thomas, but he got to retire. I mean, you have guys like maybe Alito thinks about it in the distant future because he's relatively young. But I mean, over the long term, which is basically how we have to think about these matters, you ride out this wave and you get your turn the next time. But, you know, this idea that, you know, the court is broken because, you know, of things that might happen, not over things that did happen, but over things that might happen, it's problematic to me. So that's my long-winded opinion, and I'm sure people don't like it, but it is what it is.
I guess I don't know. I think my issue would be with what you said about the Obamacare, that it's the stopgap between like having more of a basically what Canada has is close to Medicare for all, where we like or
Right.
Similar, but
Right.
I think that it would be dangerous to say, well, if we get rid of Obamacare, then Medicare for all is just going to come like that, because we've been trying to get something like Medicare for all, a national health insurance system, or universal health care for decades and decades, like even since, I mean, who would be the first? I think with FDR was the first one where they're even talking about it.
Yeah, really more so with Truman with the fair deal.
And like Clinton tried to do it, Carter tried to do it, even Nixon I think tried to do it, and then there was some scandal with his VP first, and then obviously the Watergate scandal.
Right.
But yeah, I don't necessarily know that they would have, because it's just there's, I think, so many institutional blocks to getting that kind of sweeping policy to pass. And I don't know, it's kind of dangerous to say, well, if we took away protections for people with pre-existing conditions, it's okay because then Medicare for all will come soon enough. But again, I'm talking about the political ramifications. I know you were focused more on legal, like what is right legally with the law, but I don't know, I guess I see it more as a lot of it is up to interpretation. And it seems like, I mean, the Republicans kind of cheated us out of that seat with Merrick Garland.
Yeah.
Pretty much violating, well, I know they didn't technically violate the law, but maybe not the letter of the law, but
The spirit of it. It was a mean old dirty trick. But I mean, I don't know. I tend to be very conservative with the court, so that's why my opinions on this are deeply unpopular. But it's you're gonna set a precedent. I mean, you're the political junkie, not me. I'm the recovering political junkie. Who was responsible for ending or for, I guess, activating the nuclear option in the Senate?
well, Harry Reid did it with the non-Supreme Court seats.
Okay.
But do you really think Mitch McConnell would have, if Harry Reid had not done that, do you think Mitch McConnell would have not used it himself?
It would have been much more scandalous had he had used it himself.
I mean,
And perhaps he bears the brunt of it more than Harry Reid does.
I almost feel like Mitch McConnell has proven that Republicans do not really face any electoral ramifications for breaking their own rules with the Supreme Court or with any of the courts. Like what they did with forcing this Amy Coney Barrett seat through, it's the definition of hypocrisy. But yet, Lindsey Graham seemed to have done better than he was doing when he got the seat.
Mm-hmm.
Mitch McConnell himself did better than what the polls were saying, which it might just be the polls were overly optimistic at first. And I mean, we're seeing like even Trump outperformed it.
Yeah.
It doesn't really seem like anyone turned out. Doesn't seem like anyone turned out who wasn't going to turn out anyway over being upset that third seat is being filled this way. And also, I would say about the Harry Reid thing, McConnell was seriously breaking precedent by refusing to fill any vacancies on those appeals courts and the circuit courts. So
yeah, he did that through the Obama years. So, I mean, I hear what you're saying, and I mean, I'll call this the PBS argument because PBS did the Frontline special about what happens, why the court is so politicized now, and they attribute it to the Borking fiasco, which even conservatives rejected Robert Bork. But that's not how it gets remembered. It gets remembered as, see, you screwed over that one Republican guy and it kicked into motion, these long, hand-wringing, hyper-partisan catfights that have now made the court irreparably political, and now Democrats are going to have to do what they got to do. It's like, well, yes and no. I mean, Robert Bork, number one, was roundly rejected by people on both sides for his hyper-originalist, paleo-conservative views. So, I mean, that's not a fair assumption to make it sound like he was just railroaded by a runaway contingency of one party. But more than that, it's like, well, there is something to be said for the whole senatorial courtesy. And I mean, I don't like the PBS argument, but I find myself sort of falling into it sometimes, maybe more out of habit than having thought through the issue enough to come to my own unique conclusion. But there is something to be said for setting the tone and the legacy and the consequences of your actions being felt more so by the generation that follows you than you yourself. And it seems like we're at a point where a lot of the court's politicization has been attributable to actions that Democrats did, thinking, this is going to be a one-time thing. It's only fair. And they had their own individual reasons for coming to the conclusions that they came to, or doing the things that they did, thinking that somehow it wouldn't follow. It wouldn't materialize in a way that would make them pay dearly down the line. So I don't know. I mean, that's my opinion. I I do not like packing the court, and I don't see a way forward that isn't just playing within the 6-3 majority, and I think it's doable. I really do. I think it's doable.
I mean, I think my ideal of what it could be, I think Minnesota, I don't know if it's Minnesota Supreme Court, I think it is.
Mm-hmm.
They have a system where they have some independent commission appoints the judges, and I think they have like two Democrats and two Republican, or maybe it's one Democrat, one Republican, and one independently appointed, or something like that. Maybe it's two.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, something like that would seem a lot better than Republicans choosing the people they have the most literal and or the most originalist view of the how to interpret the Constitution off of some list made by the Federalist Society.
Yeah.
And people don't even have that much experience as a judge, and also trying to choose the youngest people so that they'll last the longest.
Right.
And I mean, while I might be a little bit happier about it if the left is the one doing it, if they appoint people who are young and are going to take positions I agree with, even that is not really great for the I don't know, the respect of the court, and I don't know, really not great for the longevity of our country. So I think if we had something where it's more of an independent commission, the same way I feel about gerrymandering, where I mostly am against it because it's hurting my side, but in general, it's not really a great thing. And if that was some independent commission that was not as politically motivated, appointing people, or appointing, in that case, it would be the districts
Right.
along the district lines, then
Right.
that would be better. Now, it's kind of hard to say, like, how do you know what's going to be an independent commission? Who's going to decide if they are independent? But it just seems like the way we are going about appointing justices is super political as it is.
Yeah.
Honestly, the most fair court that upholds our Constitution, I think, the way it's supposed to be upheld, in my opinion. And also, I don't really like that so many, it seems like the presidential elections, a lot of people are voting in those elections and in the Senate elections based on not the policies that the candidates are endorsing, but based on what judges they'll appoint.
And I actually think that speaks to, something somewhat invaluable in the system, which is, I mean, there has to be some sort of democratic accountability for who gets to be on the court, right? You don't want a runaway appointee who no one can really be, I guess, put at fault for having appointed, making a bunch of decisions that are fundamentally ridiculous. And I don't think it's that all that egregious for someone to be rewarded or for someone to be penalized for naming someone to the court whom the majority of the people find either unqualified, or, for whom the majority of people think, hey, this person should not have been appointed the way he or she was appointed. So, I mean, but yeah, I hear your point.
But I don't know. I mean, I don't have like a detailed plan of what I think would work. I know Pete Buttigieg put something out.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily agree with everything he says, but I don't know. I don't necessarily think court packing of just stuffing a bunch of Democrats or a bunch of liberal justices on would be a great solution, because then they'll just do the same thing next time it's Republican. But
Right. I mean, I'll be in favor of term limits. I think that's one thing I can get behind. Whether it's, just, hey, you have 20 years, however you wish to spend it, or whatever. But, anything past that, I'd have a hard time, I guess, wrapping my head around it. And it's also just a product of, hey, this is the soup we swim in. And we've been doing this for however many, 240 some odd years. And, seeing this system function in a different way would be kind of hard to envision. So I don't know, it takes some creativity and people willing to accept that kind of change. So
All right. Well, I don't want to keep you on, but it's been
yeah,
great.
good
Great.
to see you, Liam.
Oh,
Tell you,
I wanted. Wait, I can't remember. Are you a Braun fan or are you
oh yeah, we LeBron. Come on now, Braun.
uh, my cousin shared me this thing yesterday while everyone thought Trump was going to win.
Oh
This
Lord.
Trump's path to the Mickey Mouse presidency.
Oh my God.
It's like the easiest possible Republican conference. Injured Kamala Harris. Didn't have
Oh my God.
Yang.
I'm gonna call you the Skip Bayless of Donald Trump because those.
Carried the election.
Oh my God. Oh my God, Mike.
Relied on Russia for the final play or something.
Yeah, rigged. Russia interfered. Yeah.
On going 0 and or 1-0-1. This win will have an asterisk.
Asterisk presidency. Hashtag asterisk presidency. Yeah, I mean, thank God the long national nightmare is over. My God. But yeah. Thank you for joining me today, Liam. I'll let you go, man.
Yeah.
Appreciate you.
Will,
Yeah. What?
Will Jabari.
Okay, quick story for the people. When I first met Liam, he was beaming from ear to ear. I'll never forget. I was in the library miserable. I tend to be a miserable person. Generally disagreeable. I'm sitting in the library and I look over, and this kid who looks vaguely familiar to me for some reason, I don't know, he just stuck out to me. He was just smiling from ear to ear, wearing a cane. I think he was wearing what shirt? I think he was wearing just like a Tim Kaine shirt. And he was all smiling. And I said, "What's your name?" And he said, "Liam." And I've known Liam for years ever since. And because he's my junior, I call him Little Liam. I guess he thought it would be funny to call me Little Jabari. That was the shirt he was wearing. That was the shirt he was wearing. I don't know why I have memories like that. But he I guess he thought it'd be funny to call me Little Jabari. But I'm not little, as y'all can see. I take up a lot of space. But he will always be Little Liam to me. I'll always be partial to him. I'm proud of him. I told you he's wicked smart, and I'm glad we got to hang out for a little bit. So, all right, good to see you, bud.
See you too. All right, well, have a great one, Jabari.
You too. So I want to thank Little Liam again and he will always be Little Liam, for joining me. It was an interesting election, but I mean, just to recap, I mean, people, take a deep breath. We got through it. Hopefully, we could be spared the histrionics of a court battle, and we talked about that. And you can feel free to go back and watch those parts. But I think we're good. And our long national nightmare is over. We can move on from this president. We can move on from his destructive, divisive, racist, decadent, deplorable ways. And we can move forward. Joe's not the perfect candidate, but I think the conclusion that we drew from people from all walks of life who called in, and I want to thank all of them, by the way. I want to thank, obviously, Rebel, my co-host, for being who he is. I want to thank Dylan, and I want to thank Deepro and Zach for all, kind of bearing with me. And even Nishal, who's the biggest Trump supporter. But, from all those people we heard from, regardless of, who they voted for, we all heard one thing. We're just tired of the reckless way in which we do politics now. And it seems so destructive, and it's very exhausting. And we don't have to be exhausted anymore. And the tone of this country is set by the president. It was FDR who famously said that the first job of the president is really being the office of moral leadership. And I believe that the president sets the tone. And our president has struck the loudest cacophony of sound of discontent and disunity and hatred I think we've seen, especially as young people, in our lifetimes. But now we can move forward with just a little taste of normal and a post COVID, anything but normal type of world. And hopefully that that change will be around the corner. So the past 2 days have been wild. We were up, we are down. I was varying degrees of tired. I still am varying degrees of tired. But I want to encourage you. We'll be okay. We will be okay. We will make it. I'm going to flash you my map one more time just to remind you all to relax. Okay, I'm going to show you my map one more time so that you all might relax. This is it, y'all. Uh-oh, I just messed it up. That's fine. This is it. Okay? Regardless of what happens in Pennsylvania, I think we're in the clear. 270 to 248. Joe Biden will be the next president. And we'll move forward. And until that day where it's official, be gracious, be kind to one another, continue to engage one another, and be that step forward. Be that fresh new chapter in American history that we so desperately want the new administration to be. Don't just continue to be nasty and expect him to change it all at the drop of a hat. We the people guide this country in ways great and small, incrementally. And before Joe Biden can lead, we have to follow our own example and be what we expect him to be. Be gracious as we expect him to be gracious as president. Engage as we expect him to engage as president. And continue to participate. This was the largest election by the sheer number of people who voted in American history. And that much is clear. Joe Biden has received, obviously, more votes than any candidate in American history. And that's a credit to you for going out there and voting and caring. Continue to do that. It shouldn't take a presidency, a candidacy of the cancerous type that Donald Trump had for us to be that invested. We should care that much year round because politics isn't just about president, vice president, fiscal policy, foreign affairs. It's about how we interact and come together as a people. It's about virtues. It's about those actions that we decide to take on our own without government coming in and telling us which way to go. So let's be that example. Let's be that example, especially in victory. As we set forth on a new American dream and turn the page on that old American nightmare, maybe we can move forward. And I'm glad we did this together. It was long, it was tiring, but we have a lot to be proud of. It's time for us to move on. We can and will move on. So I want to say thank you for joining me. Thank Liam. Thank everybody who came by. Thank you for putting up. I will see you when I see you. God bless you. I love you. And good night.